There is someone thinking about you right now, not casually, not the way a name floats through your mind for a second and then disappears. I mean, the kind of thinking that stops a person mid-sentence. The kind that shows up uninvited at 2 in the morning when everything is quiet and there is nothing left to distract from it. The kind of thinking that feels a little bit like longing. And if something in you already sensed that, if there has been this quiet knowing sitting somewhere in your chest that you keep talking yourself out of, I don't want you to let it go just yet. Stay with me for a moment, because I know how easy it is to dismiss what you feel when you don't have proof. When the logical part of your mind says you're reading into things, you're seeing what you want to see. You're just hoping. I understand that. I really do. But there is a difference between hoping and perceiving. And what brought you to this video today was not random. This message is not for everyone. Some people will watch this and feel absolutely nothing stir inside them, and that's okay. But if something shifted in you the moment you saw that title, if something in your body said yes before, your mind had a chance to say wait, then you are exactly who this is for. Because what is happening around you right now is not small. There is someone carrying something they haven't said out loud yet. Something that lives in the pause before they respond to you. In the way they come back after going quiet. In the words they typed and deleted, and typed again, and whatever that is. It is not going away. You've been telling yourself, it's nothing, maybe not in those exact words. Maybe it sounds more like, I'm probably overthinking this. Or, someone like that wouldn't feel that way about someone like me. Or the quieter version, the one that's harder to admit. What if I want it to be true so badly that I'm just inventing it? And I want to sit with that thought for a moment. Not to argue with it, not to tell you you're wrong for having it, but because that specific doubt, the one that sounds like humility but feels like fear, is almost never random. It doesn't show up in people who have nothing real happening around them. It shows up in people who are sensing something they don't yet feel safe enough to believe. Think about that for a second. The people who have absolutely nothing to notice don't lie awake second-guessing what they noticed. That kind of doubt requires raw material. And somewhere, quietly, you have been collecting it. Now here's the part I really need you to hear. The people who carry the most powerful energy, and I mean that in the truest sense, not the performance of confidence, not the loudness, but the real thing. They are almost always the last ones to see it in themselves. You have spent so long being the one who shows up without asking for recognition. The one who holds things steady when everything around you is shifting. The one who loves carefully, who thinks before speaking, who feels things deeply and then tucks that depth away because you learned somewhere along the way that not everyone can handle it. And in doing all of that, you stopped noticing what it does to people who get close enough to feel it. You became something rare without trying to. And rare things, they don't go unnoticed, not by the right people, not by the universe. There is something that a higher power does not do. It does not waste, not effort, not growth, not the kind of quiet, unannounced love you have been giving out for years with no guarantee of return. Every moment you chose patience when bitterness would have been easier. Every time you stayed soft when the world was pressing you to go hard. Every time you loved someone with your whole self and received very little back and still chose not to become someone cold. And that is not invisible, not to something greater than both of you. And not to the person whose name is sitting somewhere in the back of your mind right now. Because here is what I have come to understand about people who develop serious feelings and say nothing. They are not saying nothing because what they feel is small. They are saying nothing because what they feel is enormous. And enormous things are frightening, especially to someone who has been hurt before. especially to someone who has learned that wanting something too openly is a fast way to lose it. So they watch. They stay close without fully arriving. They return without fully explaining why. And all of that careful, restrained, almost painful attention. It has a direction. It is pointed at you. You don't have to believe that completely yet. But I am asking you to stop dismissing it so quickly. Because the signal you have been calling your imagination may be the most honest thing in the room. There is something I want you to understand about the way people carry feelings they are not ready to speak. They don't go silent. That's the part most people get wrong. When someone is holding something real and something that matters to them at a level they didn't plan for, they don't disappear. They don't pull back completely. What they do is something quieter than that. They go careful. And there is a difference. Silence is absence. Careful is presence with held breath. Careful looks like a message that comes just a little faster than it should, and then they slow it down the next day like they caught themselves. Careful looks like a joke that lands somewhere too, close to honest, and then they laugh it off before you can respond. Careful looks like them showing up again after going quiet, not with an explanation, just there again. Like they couldn't stay away, but they're not ready to say why. If you have been paying attention, you have felt it. Not in the dramatic moments, in the small ones, in the timing, in the way they return, in the things they almost say and then redirect somewhere safer. That is not confusion. That is someone managing the distance between what they feel and what they are ready to let be real. Now, I want to talk about something that goes deeper than behavior. Because what you are sensing is not just psychological, it is something older than that. Your ancestors understood this. The people who came before you, who navigated love and loss and connection without all the noise of modern life, they understood that energy does not lie, that when something is real, truly real, it does not wait for words to announce itself. It creates a frequency, a vibration that moves through the space between two people before either of them has the language for it. You have felt that frequency. Maybe you felt it the first time you were around this person and something in your body said, pay attention. Maybe you feel it now in the way your mind keeps returning to them without permission. That low hum of knowing, that feeling of something approaching that doesn't have a clear shape yet, you told yourself it was anxiety. You told yourself you were overthinking. You gave it every rational explanation you could find. But your body was not confused. Your body was receiving. And here is where I need you to really hear me. What this person feels for you has been building in a place they cannot manage with logic. They have tried. People always try to organize feelings that scare them. They create distance. They tell themselves stories. They stay busy. They redirect. And then something happens. A moment, a message, a memory that surfaces at the wrong time. And all of that organizing collapses. And they are left with it again. Bigger than before. Clearer than before. The desperate part? And I want to be careful with that word because desperate does not mean unstable. Desperate does not mean chaos. The desperation is quieter than that. It is the feeling of someone who has finally realized that what they carry is no longer something they can put down. They have tried putting it down. It doesn't stay. It has become undeniable, not just to you, to them. And that is a very specific kind of moment in a person's inner life. The moment when a feeling stops being something they are managing and starts being something they have to reckon with. You are that feeling for someone right now. And what happens next? That is what we need to talk about. You didn't do anything to manufacture this. I need you to really hear that. Because the moment I say it, something in you is going to push back. Your mind is going to search for the thing you did. The moment you said the right thing, the time you showed up in just the right way. And maybe you'll find something small and hold it up like evidence, but that's not what this is. There was no strategy here, no performance, no carefully calculated version of yourself that you presented to win someone over. What happened is so much simpler than that, and somehow so much harder to accept. You were just yourself, consistently, in a world where most people are exhausting themselves trying to appear as something. You just kept showing up as the actual thing. And for someone whose life has been full of people performing, that is not ordinary. That is disorienting in the most beautiful way. It stops a person. It makes them look twice. It makes them sit with something they didn't expect to feel and think, wait, what is this? Where did this come from? That was you just being you. Here is the part you really didn't know you were doing. You created safety, not by saying the right words, not by being perfect, not by never having a hard day. You created safety by being real inside of your imperfection, by not pretending, by letting people feel like they could breathe around you without having to manage your reaction to everything. And that becomes a place someone returns to in their mind. When things get loud in their life, when nothing feels solid, when they are surrounded by noise and people who want something from them, their thoughts find their way back to you. Not because you demanded it, not because you chased them there, but because you became the answer to a question they didn't know they were asking. What does it feel like to be around someone genuine? You didn't know you were doing that. I understand, most people with that kind of energy never do, but the universe knew, and so did they. Now, I want to talk about something you've probably spent a lot of time being ashamed of. The depth that sometimes feels like too much, the way you feel things longer than the people around you seem to. The sensitivity that someone at some point told you was a weakness that you needed to toughen up, that you were overthinking, that you cared too much. You heard that enough times that you started to believe it. You started treating your own heart like a problem to be managed. But I want you to consider something. What if that depth is exactly the thing, not despite everything else, because of it? What if the very thing you have been quietly apologizing for is the thing that made you impossible to forget? Not for everyone, not for people who are comfortable with surfaces, but for someone who has spent their whole life feeling slightly unseen, slightly too much themselves, slightly like they were never going to find anyone who could hold the full weight of who they are. You didn't just seem interesting, you seemed like an answer. The sensitivity is not a flaw in the design. The way you carry things, the way you sit with people in their pain without rushing them toward the exit, the way you love without putting conditions on every corner of it, that is not weakness. That is a very specific kind of strength that the universe does not hand to everyone. And something far greater than circumstance has been watching how you carry yourself through difficulty, through the seasons when nobody was applauding, through the moments when you kept going anyway. That does not go unnoticed. Not by the person we are talking about, and not by something much older and much wiser that has had its hand in your story far longer than you realize. Now I need you to hear this part carefully, because something is shifting. And I don't mean that in a vague, poetic way. I mean it in the most grounded, real sense I know how to say it. When someone has been holding serious feelings, when they have been carrying something heavy and private and real for a long time, There comes a point where that weight starts to move, where it stops being something they can quietly manage and starts becoming something that needs to go somewhere. And when that happens, the world around you responds, not always in ways that feel clean, not always in ways that look like what you were expecting. People who went quiet may start finding reasons to reach out again. Doors that felt permanently closed may develop cracks you didn't put there, situations you made peace with, circumstances you told yourself were finished. They may reopen, and some of it will feel like disruption before it feels like anything else. I want you to be prepared for that, because disruption and blessing are not always opposites. Sometimes the universe clears space in ways that feel like loss first. Sometimes what is coming toward you cannot arrive until certain things move out of the way, and the movement is not always gentle. So this is where your energy becomes sacred, not sacred in a dramatic sense, not precious in a way that separates you from real life, sacred in the quiet way, the private way, the way that asks you to become very intentional about what you let into your space right now, what you give your attention to, what you allow to pull you off center, what voices you let speak into the most tender parts of your decisions. The universe, something higher, something older than anything we have words for. It does not deliver powerful things to scattered energy. It does not place something rare and real into hands that are too full of noise to receive it. It brings what is meant for you to the version of you that is present, that has done the quiet work of becoming someone who can hold something without dropping it. And I think you are closer to that version of yourself than you realize. Which brings me to the part I most need you to hear. You are not waiting because you have been forgotten. You are not in this season of patience and uncertainty because something went wrong or because you are somehow less than what is deserved. You are here because what is being prepared in that person, in yourself, in the invisible space between where you both are right now, requires a kind of time that cannot be manufactured or rushed. Your ancestors walked hard roads to give you the life you are standing in. They endured things they could not name so that something in their line would one day arrive at exactly this moment. And they did not carry all of that through silence, through loss, through every closed door and every hard morning, to leave you abandoned on the edge of something real. You are covered. You are held by something that does not operate on your timeline but has never once lost track of you. And what is meant for you, that person, that feeling, that connection that has been forming in ways neither of you fully understands yet, it is already in motion. It was in motion before you sat down to watch this. Before you even knew what you were looking for. You don't have to force it. You don't have to earn it again. You just have to stay. But before you go, I need to leave you with something bigger than one person's feelings for you, something bigger than the question of whether they will say it or when or how. Because if you have been watching this entire time and all you took away was information about someone else, then I haven't done my job. What this moment is really about, what all of this has really been about, is you, the version of you that is becoming impossible to ignore, not just to one person, not just to the people in your immediate life, but to something far greater that has been watching the way you carry yourself through difficulty, through silence, through seasons that asked everything of you and gave very little back. Someone's serious feelings for you are not the destination. They are a reflection, a mirror. And what that mirror is showing you right now is the frequency you have been living on without fully realizing it. The depth, the steadiness, The kind of presence that does not announce itself but cannot be unfelt by anyone who gets close enough to experience it. That is you. That has always been you. And if any part of you has been sitting with the quiet weight of wondering whether you were too much or not enough, or somehow responsible for every silence and every distance and every moment of waiting that has stretched longer than it should have, I need you to hear this clearly. You did nothing wrong. The love you gave that never came back to you the way you needed, the times you chose to stay when walking away would have been so much easier. The way you kept showing up with your whole heart, your whole self, even in rooms where no one asked you to, even in moments where no one seemed to notice, none of that was wasted. Not a single piece of it. The universe does not work that way. Energy like that does not disappear. It accumulates, it transforms, it returns. In forms you are only beginning to recognize. And what is coming towards you now is not luck. I want you to really sit with that. It is not luck, and it is not coincidence, and it is not something that is happening to you randomly. It is the natural result of who you have been, quietly, consistently, when no one was watching and there was nothing to gain from it. That is the version of you that created this moment. And that version of you does not need to chase anything, does not need to decode anything, does not need to perform or prove or position. You just have to stay grounded enough to recognize what is real when it arrives. And it will arrive. So wherever you are right now, whatever room you are sitting in, whatever has been feeling heavy in your chest lately, whatever you have been carrying that you haven't told anyone about, I need you to know something. You are seen not just by me, by something far older and far wiser than anything in this world. Something that has had its hand on your life longer than you know. Something that has been present in every moment that felt like it was breaking you and was quietly making sure it didn't. You were never as alone in this as it felt. Not once. The waiting was not punishment. The silence was not abandonment. And the feelings moving toward you right now are not the beginning of your story. They are evidence of the one you have already been living. I love you. I genuinely do. And I am so proud of who you are becoming.